don't want your offense to be one-dimensional and just Dalvin Cook and nothing else. You got to be able to counterpunch with play action. That's a big part of Gary Kubiak's offense. And so if you don't have Thielen out there, the guy that was responsible for 2 huge passing plays in that game against the New Orleans Saints, then I think that stifles the Minnesota Vikings offense to a degree.
1,000%.
All right, the Titans will be in Baltimore to face the Ravens tomorrow night. Lamar Jackson has put together quite a sophomore season, but despite his MVP numbers, he says last year's playoff loss continues to motivate him this year. Well, now he gets ready to face a red-hot Tennessee team coming off that big win over the Patriots. Nick, will Lamar's MVP magic continue against the Titans this weekend?
Well, that, Jenna Wolf, is the question that will determine the entire NFL playoffs. Will Lamar continue to be the player in the postseason he was in the regular season? If the answer is yes, then I'd like to congratulate the Baltimore Ravens on their 3rd Super Bowl championship since they went to Baltimore, because then no one's going to beat them. If Lamar is the same guy in the postseason, then you can't beat this team right now. Since week 6, they have a top 2 defense in football. Over the course of the year, they have a top 5 defense in football. The Marcus Peters trade energized them. Earl Thomas took him a few weeks to kind of get his sea legs beneath him, being with the new franchise for the first time in his career, and now he's back to being Earl bleeping Thomas. And Mark Ingram's dealing with an injury, but he returned to practice. That if the Ravens continue to do in the postseason through Lamar what they did in the regular season, then you have no viable path to victory. Now, what do I think will happen? I think Lamar will be good in the playoffs. I do not think he will be the MVP of the playoffs. I think that you will have a number of factors. One is his lack of playoff experience. Another is the ability for teams to drill down specifically. The Titans have known if we beat the Patriots, they knew they were playing Baltimore no matter what, because they're the 6th seed. It's the only round 2 game they could play. I guarantee you've had coaches on that staff since week 17 preparing for Baltimore, preparing to deal with this very unique offensive scheme, what Greg Roman's doing with Lamar. And I would imagine what they are going to do is say, we will tip our cap to you if your receivers beat us, but we are going to put all of our attention on the middle third of the field. We're going to put all our attention on your running game and on your tight ends. And if Willie Snead and Hollywood Brown have huge games, which simultaneously they haven't had huge games all year long, then we're going to lose. But the question will be, if that is what they give you, can Lamar make those throws consistently? We know he has the ability to. It's no longer a question, does he have the ability to throw the ball down the field? How effective will he be in the biggest game of his career this weekend, and then one even bigger if they win it the following weekend against Kansas City?
Listen, we see this one the same way. I think the Tennessee Titans have to try to force Lamar Jackson to throw the ball down the field and outside of the numbers. I think that's the only way you have a fighting chance in this matchup. You talked about the Tennessee Titans knowing what's coming. You can know what's coming and still catch a beatdown.
Yep.
I mean, boxers knew what was coming with Mike Tyson in his prime in the late 80s and early 90s. There was nothing they can do about it. They were going to get knocked out inside of 3 rounds. The Baltimore Ravens have that same bully type of mentality, especially when it comes to their offense being able to run the football. What I'm interested to see is how Mike Vrabel is going to match up with his personnel. Is he going to go out there with base defense, or is he going to go out there with nickel? Because if you go out with base, you're going to have trouble keeping up with the speed of Lamar Jackson and those running backs in the run game. If you go out there in nickel, yeah, that makes you faster overall on defense, but are you going to be able to hold up with the physicality at the point of attack? That's when the tight ends in the Ravens offense come into play, because you have Mark Andrews, you have Nick Boyle, and you got Hayden Hurst. And all those guys, as much as we talk about them being great receivers, they're all really good inline blockers, and you can create some interesting formations for defenses to go up against. So it'll be interesting how Mike Vrabel sees it and what he thinks gives him the best chance to slow that rushing attack down.
Chris, so much of this game is going to come down to, like Nick said, how Lamar shows up this weekend. Here's a guy who is a young player still, coming off a tough loss last season, having an insane season this year. As a player, what's the week like for him? How do you quiet all that noise and prepare for arguably the biggest game of your entire career?
Well, here's the thing. I think him having that experience in his rookie year is going to pay dividends now.
Even though it was a negative experience?
Even though it was a negative experience, because he actually got to feel it, the intensity, the overall speed of the game in the playoffs. It all ratchets up a notch because it's win or go home. So having that understanding and knowing what those emotions are going to feel like when you come out there. I think there's nothing that can prepare you for it unless you've actually been out there and you've done it. And so I think it's a tremendous advantage for the Ravens to have him have that experience in his rookie year, because now I just feel like the group around him is tailor-made to fit his skill set, and he's in a position now, because of the experience and because of the confidence that he's gained from his regular season performance, that you can go out there and get the best version of Lamar Jackson.
And the other question is going to be about rust. Lamar's played 2 games since December 13th. Okay, so he's played the team's played 2 games since December 13th, because they played on a Thursday, and that Lamar's only played 1 of those games because he rested in week 17. So you also have an element at the end of the year after that San Francisco Buffalo stretch. It was Jets, Cleveland, Pittsburgh. Then you rest everyone in week 17 against Pittsburgh. Then you have a bye.
Then you have the bye.
And so it's been a long time for Baltimore since they played a playoff-level team. Now, throughout the year, aside from Kansas City, they whooped every playoff-level team they played, and they beat every playoff-level team they played, with really only San Francisco giving them a real close game. They annihilated Houston. They annihilated New England. But I do wonder how much rust will be a factor, because Tennessee's only way to win is to jump out on them early. If Tennessee falls down 10-0, you can turn the game off. I wouldn't, but you can turn, Tennessee cannot come from behind in this football game, so they have to hope that Lamar and that offense is a little rusty, that they do take a little bit to get in sync. That's the only chance they got in this game.
It's such a good point, because it's Tennessee who's actually coming off the momentum in this matchup. All right, for the first time in years, Tom Brady will be making non-football related plans in early January. A rare early exit means that Brady's got some decisions to make on where he'll play next season. Former NFL scout Bucky Brooks said it's time for the Patriots to, quote, close the books on the Brady era. What do you think, Nick? Is he right?
Well, I mean, I think the time for them to close the books on the Brady era, if everyone could go do it over again, would be after last year's Super Bowl. They could have done this a year early. Now, obviously, you can't tell your guy that just won a 6th Super Bowl and the game before the Super Bowl, let a 4th quarter comeback on the road. Your service no longer needed here, so I understand why they didn't do that. But yeah, of course Bucky Brooks is right. The Patriots, with or without Tom Brady, are not going to be a championship-level team next season. You can't, whether you agree with me that Brady is on the severe downtick, or with the people that disagree with that and just say it's all the pieces around him, either way, that's not fixed in one offseason. The Patriots traded their 2nd-round pick for a receiver. They have an aging roster with a lot of pending free agents. You know they don't overpay in free agency. They're not all of a sudden going to do a huge departure of what they've done in years past, which is, no, win now, we're going to sign guys to bad contracts. So whether it's because Brady is done or the roster stinks, you certainly can't fix the first, and it's not Patriots style to try to fix the second to microwave it. So either way, you're not contending for a Super Bowl in 2020. So what puts you in the best position to compete for a Super Bowl in 21 or 22 or 23? To start the next era of Patriot football as soon as possible. It's a harsh decision, it's a tough decision, but it's the type of decision Canty Belichick has always made. We always say he wants to be a year early rather than a year late. Well, he can't be a year early anymore, but he certainly can be a year or 2 late if he relents to the pressure from above that I think there will be from Robert Kraft to give a quarterback that after week 3, was a bottom 6 in all statistical categories quarterback in this league, $25 to $30 million a year starting next season, which is reportedly what Tom Brady's going to be asking for.
Well, we know there's going to be pressure from above, because if Bill Belichick had his way, then Jimmy Garoppolo wouldn't be playing for the 49ers.
Yep.
He'd be the starting quarterback for the New England Patriots, and that Tom Brady chapter of Patriots football would already be closed. But, I mean, Tom Brady at this stage, he wants to be respected, which is why I think he has that clause in his current contract that doesn't allow the Patriots to franchise him. The way you show a player that you respect his ability is how you pay him. And Tom Brady, for the better part of this decade, has been on an under-market deal at his position. So at this stage, it's about trying to get what he deserves. But I don't think Bill Belichick is in a hurry to pay Tom Brady market value, especially the way that offense looks this past year. Now, you mentioned all of the potential losses that they have or the decline in personnel at the skill positions. You also got to consider potentially losing Josh McDaniels, who's been Tom Brady's coordinator for all but 2 of his years in New England. So I think that could be potentially a big loss if he decides to take over the job with the Cleveland Browns. So for all of those different reasons, it seems like it will point to Tom Brady being out the door. But I don't know who the Patriots' alternative is at the quarterback position. Who's going to be the successor for Tom Brady? Is it going to be Jarrett Stidham? I mean,
Probably
he sure
not.
didn't look ready when he played in spot duty in the regular season. So that's my only question about Tom Brady and whether or not the Patriots are going to run it back with him. Who's going to be his replacement? I mean, you do have some young quarterbacks that will be on the free agent market. Jameis Winston, Marcus Mariota, Ryan Tannehill, Teddy Bridgewater. We'll see if Bill Belichick is infatuated with any of them, but ultimately, I think Tom Brady is the guy that probably gives you the best chance to compete to win the division next year. But I think the Patriots do have to address the quarterback position in a real way this offseason. I just don't think it'll mean that Tom Brady is out the door.
Quickly, one of the things we haven't really been talking about is how tied in Tom Brady is to Josh McDaniels, and how if Josh stays, does that help Tom Brady maybe come back? It's hard to, after 20 years, to go to a new team, a new offense, new personnel, new everything. Well, you wonder how close the two of them are.
So I think it's a really good point, and I actually talked to Joe Theismann about this recently, and Joe said, you think Brady wants to spend his offseason learning a new system, learning new personnel, learning these new things? Like, no, he wants to go on vacation. He wants to spend time with his family. But if Josh McDaniels leaves, you're learning a new-ish system either way. You're learning, I'm sure they will implement a lot of the same things, and Brady's not going to follow him to Cleveland, obviously. Now, if the Chargers were to force out Anthony Lynn in order to get a Brady McDaniels package deal, and by the way, I bet they would do that, even though I think Anthony Lynn's a good coach, I do think Josh McDaniels leaving weighs more on the side of Brady also saying, I want to leave myself. But the point you make, Canty, is a good one, and it's one that I hear all the time, which is, who is his replacement?